This is Innerview, an inside look at the people whose music has changed our lives. Innerview is brought to you by MCA Records and Arista Records. We'll be back with host Jim Ladd and Innerview right after this.
If you happen to be in San Francisco for any period of time during or after the so-called Summer of Love in 1965, you could not possibly have missed the presence or the influence of Bill Graham upon the music scene. From the human being to the closing of the Fillmore, Bill Graham played the role of adhesive. He was the person that everyone thought was so far removed from the hipness of that particular time period that he couldn't possibly understand it. And yet, he understood it so well, he was able to bring to that growing musical audience exactly the combination of performers they were dying to hear. And, I may add, at a price that they were able to afford. I'm Jim Ladd, and tonight, an interview of Bill Graham.
He said, hold a dollar bill up to the mirror, and I'll show you something funny. It's only a fast buck, but ooh, it's so hard to make that kind of money.
Bill Graham had the vision to make a business out of what most of us had only begun to get a grip on as having an impact on our lives. The music that was only starting to get played on the radio. FM progressive radio was only in its infancy when Bill Graham figured out that if all those albums were selling, the people buying them must certainly want to see those acts in performance. So, he took a tiny auditorium in a rundown neighborhood in San Francisco, and through taste and an incredible business sense, made a legend out of it. But legends don't come cheap, and Bill Graham himself acquired a bigger-than-life image. He became known as the man who said, and we quote, "Me? I'm no hippie. I'm just a businessman." End of quote. Well, you can ask what's a hippie and you can ask what's a businessman, but instead of getting into semantics, let's get right to the man himself and ask the real question. Who in the hell is Bill Graham?
I know mothers and fathers that have come to appreciate that someone come along and made a landmark in the city for the youngsters to go. And Bill Graham have made a landmark here in the city.
We can be together.
Sitting here, it's just such a nice environment, and I really feel kind of strange at this first question, but I'm going to ask it first anyway. Is that this aura that you have, Bill, developed, that you have a personality, see, that is on 10. Now, there's only two differences. It's either on 10 positive or it's on 10 negative. See, is that normally the way? I mean, in here you seem like you're just so calm and. Is that your business hat you put on when you do that?
Yeah, and the phone hasn't rung yet today. I guess that's why it's a 10 positive. So there are times when it reaches those extremes. I think it's less and less that. I think there was a time, the first 5-6 years of the last 10, 11, that it was a combination of being really totally immersed in the desire to have it go perfectly. And the tenacity and the drive and...
You do have an unbelievable drive. I mean, it's obviously self-imposed.
I think it's waning to some extent because for example, now I will not go to any end as I used to get myself into the frame where it's going to be perfect. In other words, I still want it perfect, but I won't pay the price anymore that I used to, which is a whole subject in itself of... without having put into it what I thought I had to put in, I don't think it would have come off the way it did. I can no longer do that, but I can only hope that between myself and the staff we have enough expertise and enough honor and enough integrity to still have things be done the way I think they should be done.
The way things should be done means a lot more to Bill Graham than it does to most people. When you got to the front door of the Fillmore, he was, more often than not, standing there checking the crowd, greeting people he knew, and occasionally chewing out someone who had the nerve to try to get into a benefit free, and doing so in a voice that could be heard for a block. Then, as the house lights dimmed, there would be Bill Graham on stage, welcoming everyone and introducing the first act.
4 gentlemen and 1 great, great roar. Big Brother.
And it was said that after the house had been cleared and the equipment was in the trucks and the concession shut down for the night, that Bill Graham swept the floor. But even Bill Graham couldn't do it all by himself. So he surrounded himself with a tight staff of people who eventually learned to know and to feel when things were just exactly right.
As you said, there's a staff that's very good, you know, and they've got those years of experience. And I don't mean to say that we do things far different and far better than anybody in the country. We have a certain way of working with the artists, certain way of dealing with the public, that hopefully over the years we built a thing of mutual respect while we're there. And yet, last night was the reopening of Wonderland, and it's not like it was 6-7 years ago that the week before I've got to go in, is the stage going up right, are the lights being hung right, is the backstage being painted properly, is the ping pong table in the right place. By now the people know what I would like to have happen, and so much of it is common sense to the people who've done it with me over the years. So that when I walked in last night, about a half hour before the place opened, I don't mean to walk in like the Colonel during my basic training with the white gloves, you know, along the rim of your bed. And yet, hopefully the things were prepared the way they were by the staff, because they did it right because they wanted to do it right and not out of fear. But if I had to get it out of fear, I'll take that too. We have a stage at Wonderland, and above the stage we have a large 20 by 30 foot screen, and every year we have a logo flag on one side and the other. So let's say the Grateful Dead skull on one side and the Stones tongue on the other side, or the Bette Midler lady on one side, and logos signed, but no names, but just logos around the ceiling. But instead of a logo or a picture or painting of something, in huge 3-foot letters was this sign saying Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. And I said, why, how is it possible that this thing was set up, let's say 2 or 3 days ago in preparation for the opening tonight, meaning Friday night, that the guy who managed the building for my company, the stage manager for the company, all the tech guys for the company, that none of them realized how wrong that is and how detrimental it is to every artist that walks on the stage, because above the stage, 20 by 25 feet, a little bit to one side, because here's the screen, that every act that walks on it will have over its head Emerson, Lake, and Palmer.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. There behind the glass stands a real blade of grass. Be careful as you pass. Move along, move along. Come inside, the show's about to start. Guaranteed to blow your head apart. Rest assured, you'll get your money's worth. With this show, it happened all right. You gotta see the show. It's a dynamo. You gotta see the show. It's rock and roll.
Well, it surprises me that that is not as instinctively inherent in others, and the only answer I can give it, and I say this with complete respect for the people that work with me, because they're great guys, and they tolerate my madness. The key answer has to be, it's not their baby. I mean, it's their baby, but not their stomach. It didn't come out of their guts.
Bill Graham productions are taken for granted now, but in the beginning, he too was stunned by the musical phenomenon of the Fillmore Auditorium and groups like the Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead. I'm Jim Ladd, and we'll hear how it affected him when our inner view of Bill Graham continues.
Well, it's no sense in me standing up here telling a big fat lie. I'm feeling good this evening.
How you doing, everybody? And welcome back. You know, as I sat talking with Bill Graham, looking at his scrapbook of all those beautiful flowing posters that came to be identified with the Fillmore, and talking about that special space and time that was the late 60s, that time that was to be so culturally important, and it seems that it could not have been almost 10 years ago, I suddenly wanted to find out from him how he had felt about it, and whether it had seemed so important to him as it did to all of us.
Whether you want to accept the mantle or not, you, Bill Graham, have changed many, many lives, including mine, okay? The very first rock and roll concert that I ever went to that showed me that rock and roll may have something more happening than just tapping one's foot was at Winterland, and on the bill was Paul Butterfield, the Original People, Muddy Waters,
And Mama May Thornton.
Mama May, and the Original Airplane. Singing that.
67.
I was born in Chicago in 1941. I was born in Chicago in 1941. Well, my father told me, son, you had better get it done.
Did you ever believe that it would turn out to be what has happened here when you open up this?
No.
It just kind of...
The expansiveness, yeah. Anybody who could prophesize what happened would have been a fluke. I think they would have taken them away. I think if somebody said in 1967, let me tell you that the volume of sales for the record in 1976 will be X, or that a guy in a group called The Herd, whose name is Peter Frampton, 9 years from now will sell, that many units, or that that an actor will get more than $3,000, and that someday they'll fill stadiums and cement plants. No.
Well, woke up this morning with a wine glass in my hand. Whose wine? What wine? Where the hell did I die? Must have been a dream. I don't believe where I've been. Come on, let's do it again. You, like I had to feel.
The Fillmore and Winterland, but let's say the Fillmore was such a gathering place for not only music, but ideas and energy exchange and people that were gathering together for protection, if nothing else, at that time.
It always surprised me that I was always accused of opportunism, and always that he doesn't really understand the young people. He doesn't understand music. He doesn't really like music. He's anti-liberation. He's anti-third world.
Only in it for the buck.
Only in it for the bucks, of course. And then the music was the thing that was used to experiment on the true challenge of what I do and others do in related fields, which is twofold. One, I have a chance to show people that industrially there is a way of doing it without the downtown way. The other one is that if you're not an artist, I am not an artist. Years ago I wanted to be an actor. I didn't have the talent, didn't have the luck, whatever it was. But I'm not an artist, and yet I enjoy to be around them, and I enjoy the fruits of their labors, the end result. To be in a position to be able to take artists and place them on a stage and create an environment, lights, sound, and then invite the most challenging species of all, which is a human being, to come to that place and say to yourself, I'm not God, I'm not an artist, I'm a producer, and I will attempt to put that in front of them, then I will step back and look at the result. And what you see and feel with people watching Ray Charles getting on with Aretha Franklin, or The Dead and the Airplane with Baez dancing on the stage, orgasm doesn't even describe it.
I often wonder last one to go. He was sweet William. I guess we should have been warned, but it felt so good to be quitting. We thought we were causing nobody any harm, so we kept on lying to each other, saying, hey, I'm gonna quit it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. Yes, I quit it tomorrow, tomorrow never comes. Tomorrow never comes.
During 3 previous interviews, I talked with Bob Weir, the Grateful Dead, Steve Miller, and the Jefferson Starship, and I felt the need to ask all of them, and maybe because of the way that I was personally affected by my experiences at the Fillmore in Winterland, I felt the need to ask them if they thought that phenomenon that brought people together, that made them step outside themselves to hug someone they didn't know or to lay a joint on a complete stranger, whether it came from the music or whether it was the music that made those people come together. And what I asked them was the same question I asked Bill Graham, the man who created the home for the music. Is it going to happen again?
No. You see, in order for that to happen, you'd have to get back that which an audience brought to the facility in the old days, and now what they bring now they come to be entertained and just sit back, and they don't just open up. I'm on drugs. They were part of the same group. They came with their peers to see their peers. They were all against the war. They were all against Nixon.
But was
they
there
were all
not
against, for equality, for racial equality.
But was there not a cycle like that before that phenomenon happened? I mean, that's the way audiences were.
That was the 65 to 70 cycle only.
Okay. Now, I'm not talking about reverting or hey.
Not with the hair. In other words, could it ever happen where it could be a one again?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's, maybe this time we shave our heads. I don't care what the uniform is, but...
No, because I don't think so, because I think also that the public has accepted them as now all professional entertainers out there, and the price is $6, $7, $8. In order for it to go back the old way, you will have to have more people, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong, you will have to have more people who retain a particular kind of philosophy that only one group, and to some extent another one, that I don't know, but over the years, only one group has retained that philosophy about who they are and what they do. And because the others faded, the scene changed. I'm talking about the Grateful Dead.
Without a warning, you broke my heart. Taking a baby, torn it apart. And you left me standing in the dark, crying. Said your love for me was dying. So come on, baby. Baby, please, I'm begging you, baby, and I'm on my knees, count on your life, let it shine on me, your love light, let it shine on me, hey, all right.
Now the Dead will still go out and they say, we want to play 4 hours, we only want to charge $5. That building, they bus kids. We can make a lot of money. How big is it? 20,000 pairs. How big? 5,000. They don't bus kids. We'll play there. This summer, they were offered 50, 60, 70, $100,000 gigs. Pairs. We want to play some 3,000 seat theaters. Why? They do want to retain that communication, that closeness. Garcia, to me, is the rocker. I mean, he is what a rocker. Not right or wrong. If he's not on the road, he's in the studio. If he's not in the studio, he's playing at Keystone Corner or anywhere else, boarding house, wherever it might be, any club, anywhere. That's his life. How many groups play places smaller than they can get away with?
Very good point.
The bigger you make it, the further. I said after Woodstock, if you want to know what's happening to our industry, to the inner soul of our industry, just measure the distance between the microphone and the last person in the audience.
Man, there's supposed to be 1.5 million people here by tonight. Can you dig that? New York State Thruway is closed, man.
I'm going home by helicopter.
Well, it's not going to happen until more groups are really, really concerned about the public. Groups like Chicago are concerned, Cat Stevens are concerned, Paul McCartney are concerned. I'm not saying they're not.
Do you feel that most aren't? Or do you feel that they've been just kind of swept up into this like everybody else?
Most do whatever they feel they have to do to be who they are. You see, I've been from Fargo to Duluth to Wichita to Omaha. It's tough. It's tough to be a superstar. I am not a superstar. It is. I've watched them work. It is not easy. Even though we all knock it, including me sometimes. They go from the helicopter to the jet, from the jet to the limo, from the limo to the suite. You know, from the suite to the bedroom, back into the jet. It's not easy. Tough life.
So you wanna be a rock and roll star? Then listen now to what I say. Just get an electric guitar and take some time and learn how to play. And when your hair's come right and your pants are tight, it's gonna be alright. Then it's time to go downtown where the agent man won't let you down. Sell your soul to the company who are waiting there to sell plasticware. And in a week or two, if you make the charts, the girls will tear you apart.
It's only fitting that Bill Graham has become the superstar of concert promoters since he nurtured some of our greatest rock and rollers at the Fillmore. I'm Jim Ladd, and you'll hear some things Bill Graham has to say about some of those celestial beings when Innerview returns. Bill Graham is a walking history book. His relationships to the people who played for him transcend that of a mere entrepreneur. He pushed them, he consoled them, he loved them. And talking about them was sometimes difficult for Bill, and one of the most difficult and special for him was Janis Joplin.
Into my life on waves of electrical sound and flashing light she came. Into my life with the twist of a dial, the wave of her hand, the warmth of her smile.
I ain't the kind of woman who'd make your life the bed of ease. No, 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 no. Not the kind of woman, no, to make your life a bed of ease. Yeah, but if you just want to go out drinking, honey, won't you invite me along, please? Oh, I'd be so good to you, babe. Yeah, I'll go.
It's hard to tell you the most memorable thing about Janis because she was a very lonely person. And all you have to do is ask yourself what it must be like to be a female superstar. And rather than tell you anything humorous, to make a composite of a number of conversations we had, we would sit down sometimes after a show, take a ride, a couple occasions, and she was dumbfounded by her situation. How do you have an old man? How do you have a relationship? Bill, you don't know what it's like to walk on a stage and have 200,000 people tell you you're above simple humanity. And I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't know how to handle that. And of course, eventually, that's what did her in, like it did Jimmy in, or Morrison and Hendrix and some of the others. And it was just a shame that beneath that exuberant front was an orphan. And I would imagine that's the case with the few female superstars that exist. I mean, to be a guy in Omaha, you go to a bar and you pick up just to feel something warm next to you. What do you do if you're a woman? What do you do if you're Janis Joplin?
I need a man to love me. Don't you understand me, baby? Why I need a man to love. I gotta find him. I gotta
I see that when subjects come up that are kind of like, you know, not happy to you, someone's gone. I mean, I really see that in your talk and so forth, so I don't want to like depress you here or anything.
No, you don't. It's just that much to some people's dismay who feel I'm just a businessman, I'm not one of these people who love, 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 but I mean, I knew this woman and I knew this man, and they both went, and I'm still here, and I think I did good things for them and they did good things for me, so I can't just... Let me tell you about Janis Joplin. I'm not an archangel, but it has perfection.
Once I lived the life of a millionaire. I spent all my money, I didn't care. Taking my kids out for a 95 time. Buying all whiskey, champagne wine. Then I began to fall so low. I didn't have friends, I didn't have no place to go. I get my hands on a dollar again, you know, hold on to it till that eagle dress, 'cause nobody knows you when you're down and out. In your pockets, not one penny, all those friends, no, now you ain't got any. But as soon as you get on your feet again, everybody wants to be all of those friends. It's my street now, 'cause nobody knows you when you're down.
Innerview continues now with Bill Graham, the man responsible for both the Fillmore West and Fillmore East. You know, it's sad to think that so very many of the stories we will cover in this two-part interview of Bill Graham are about people who are no longer with us. Now, this segment contains a story that is very special to me. It's a story about Jim Morrison of The Doors.
Well, the clock says it's time to close now. I guess I better go now. I really like to stay here all night. The cars crawl past all stuffed with eyes. Lights share their hollow glow. Your brain seems bruised with numb surprise. Still one place to go. Still one place to go. Let me sleep all night in your soul kitchen. Warm my mind with your gentle snow. Turn me out in a wonder, baby. Stumbling in the neon. Minarets, speaking secret alphabet. I light another cigarette. Learn to forget. Learn to forget. Learn to forget.
It's always interesting when a man leaves us before what we consider would have been his prime. You say, in actuality, had he lived, would he have remained as important, or would he have, had he really blown his wad already? Had he said everything he had to say? I mean, we come across people who write 2 or 3 great songs and there's nothing left. Hopefully, I think we were wrong about Jim, because I think he was a poet and a cinematographer and a screenwriter, you know, which he wanted to get into. But again, and I don't know the reason for those inner machinations that took place. But he was certainly, of the ones that I knew, that I got close to, and the most disturbed and the most confused of any artist I've ever met.
Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss, another flashing chance at bliss, another kiss, another kiss.
He was very stubborn. and he was very demanding, very broody on the stage. And in the Fillmore in San Francisco, at the old Fillmore, he walked on stage one night. He was pretty low, didn't he? Like to swing the microphone around a lot. And he started waving this thing over the audience. And I got out there, and the way he was doing it was just right in front of him was the area where he was swinging it. And I figured, I'll go down there, and if he does drop it anyway, he said, drop it, just pick it up in time. I didn't want it to, I mean, it was hard, it's a microphone. I figured, I'll go down there and try to stop it. So I run down off the stage into the front of the stage, and I'm trying to catch it, and sure enough, it lands right on my head. Oh, no. And it made a big lump, and I mean, I really got furious. Of the 3,000 people there, he had to hit me. And after the show, I said, you got to be careful. It wasn't me. There's a lawsuit. He said, sure, it's my act. You're not going to tell me what to do. It was sort of strained. So the next time he came back, he asked me to come up to the dressing room, and he gave me this gift. And I opened the box, and it was one of those jungle pith helmets, painted in psychedelic colors. And he said, and it said, the Morrison Special. He said, now you're safe.
When you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange.
So Bill Graham is, after all, human, just like us, even if he does try to hide it. Well, then what makes his organization such a well-oiled machine? I'm Jim Ladd. Will attempt to find out when Innerview returns.
Thank you for waiting. We'd like to introduce some Southern musicians. We're going to introduce some of the boys individually to you. You can come along with us on the piano, Mr. Chuck Lavelle. On bass, Mr. Lamar Williams. On one of the drums, Mr. Butch Trucks. On the other set of drums, Mr. J-Mo. On guitar and vocals, Mr. Richard Betts. On guitar, keyboard, and vocals, Mr. Greg Allman. From Macon, Georgia, the great Allman Brothers.
Producing a rock show can be one of the most difficult things going. But getting it right and still managing to get along with the musicians and all the other people necessary to make the machine work can be downright treacherous.
Tell me, friend, exactly where I've been. So to ask, pay you back no matter what the time.
Every single person, they all have one thing to say, and that is that when you go to work a Bill Graham concert, that everything the guy says is going to be there is there on 10. You can have anything you want that helps get the show and put your head in the right space to perform.
Personality may not be the one we like. Yeah, I feel very good about what you said, that in the end, that Bill does put out what he thinks is necessary to put on a good show, rather than, you know, backstage he's got those marshmallows, but the stage sucks. But there may not be any marshmallows, but the stage ain't gonna suck.
Sometimes the light's all shining on me. Other times I can barely see. Lately it occurs to me, what a long, strange trip it's been.
No one could ever say that the stage sucked on a Bill Graham presentation. And any semi-reasonable want or need expressed by the craziest of the crazy in the world of music was fulfilled when an act played a Graham show. From the buffet in the dressing room to special personalized touches in the light shows. When the sign said Bill Graham presents, it meant just that.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much. I can guarantee you it's not a nice thing to say on the air, but this is going to be the greatest evening of our lives. So you want to jump out your chick, man? He's on into your man, but you ain't just exactly sure what's it. So you started to let your hair go, and big butts happen to want to go. And somehow you know that much more to the trip. But what is it? Tell me, if you think you know. What is it? Said if you really hear, dancing to hear the show, do it in your crib. Jump within here. What is it?
What makes it all possible? What makes it all tick? For me, there has been one underlying element without which there would never have been a company, without which none of us could operate, and which to me is the dominating force since the beginning of our business. And I don't mean good or bad, left or right. Do you know what that is?
Let me be the one to ask, Bill. What?
We have a sense of humor.
A sense of humor. Yes. It's not, I mean, it's a business, but it's not all that serious.
No, forget everything else. I'm talking about a sense of humor. That, thank God, I have the ability to laugh at myself. I am not a comedian. I am not a funny person. But there are times that if I did not have a sense of humor, I would be on a funny farm. And you can't just pass that by. I'm telling you that the business is so insane that there are times when you must go one of two ways. You must either kill the person in front of you or laugh with the person in front of you. When the road manager says, we can't go on this evening because the instrument was left at the airport in London. You either eat him or you say, oh, London, sure. And you must laugh.
This sense of humor thing was something that Grace Slick brought up when I asked her what was the, you know, what's the most important thing to your being? You know, I mean, forget Starship and Airplane for a moment, but, you know, to you. And she said that it was two things. It was love and a sense of humor. That those two things could, you know, were what was important.
I tell you, not just Grace, but I find with a lot of rock and rollers that I've met, that they're really very serious, but want to cover it up with some humor. I think too many of them lack sense of humor. With us, I think we have sense of humor, and I cover it up with a hard business line.
You away with things, come on obscene. Like hot rice, too clean, real fine nicotine. Sometimes the price is $65. Prices like that make a grown man holler. Especially when it's sold by a kid who's only 15. No, I love you, baby. Yes, I do. No, I love you, baby. Yes, I do.
It's a hard business, all right. And Bill Graham did manage to create an image that was, well, not easy to come up against. But even though that image was projected by the man from the beginning, there were occasions when even Bill Graham didn't want to be Bill Graham.
Fourth show I ever did at the old early Fillmore. Standing by the steps one night, and half a dozen angels come in. We went to the rap with the ladies, and we'd like to frequent your place here. Well, there's the box office. Well, we're Hell's Angels. And we go through the whole rap. I said, you're equal to everyone. No, we're not. I said, to me, you're equal to anybody else. And the envy is always, okay, man, that's the way you want it. I mean, if I tell you I'm no hero, I don't fight. Nobody's believed. I don't fight. It's just a verbal thing. I don't punch. Anyway, finished. 1 week passes. It's 2 weeks later now, and I'm walking through the place, and all of a sudden I feel it's this big guy. Can I talk to you? So he says, well, it's sort of personal. I said, you want some privacy? He said, can I go to your office? Uh-oh. And I got to show my colors, you know. Sure, follow me, you know. Captain Muncie. And
just stay close. I don't want you to get hurt.
No, these two other guys were with him, these two other angels, and he said, you guys wait outside. I mean, like he was going to my office, right, to talk in English. So we go into the office, and I sit there and I wheel around and says, you know, and you got to do something.
Sure.
Yeah, what's in your mind? Meanwhile, I don't know if I can get this, right? And he starts telling me, he says, and as he's talking, he's very easy and he's very gentle. And he says, well, you know, 2 weeks ago, I was here, you know, remember me? I rapped to you. And I said, you know, and I was the guy that asked you if you wanted. I said, yeah, I remember. He said, well, I'm here with my old lady. I said, yeah. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was here, you know, and then my little lady checked her coat in the coat room. And then when we left, my old lady got a poster, you know, like you give a poster for the next week's show. If you come on a Sunday night, you know, you give it free for the next week for the poster. See, I couldn't make it here last week, and I was wondering if, I mean, could you lay last week's poster on me? And I look at this guy, you know, 6'5", 250, and I couldn't hold it back, and it was a combination of relief and just that little edge of joy that I had. I looked straight at him and I said, take two.
River in her mouth, her hair hanging northward as she travels south. Dirty on her Harley, but her nails are clean. Superpowered, deflowered, over 18 Irene. Sent her in the bear, wear her tattoos and her chains. Wrap around her body, there written all the names of prisons she's been in and lovers she has seen. Curve, winding, bumping, grinding, motorcycle Irene.
This has been one of the most complex interview programs we've ever done, because it's not the story of a man and his music. Rather, it's a story of a man and our music. Bill Graham closed Fillmore West and Fillmore East in 1971, but the print he left on the musical world is indelible. Next week, we'll be bringing you a little bit more of the man himself in part 2 of our interview of Bill Graham. Before saying goodnight, I would like to say thank you to Bill Graham, also to Queenie Taylor and Gail Barrett and all the good people at FM Productions. And, of course, my personal thanks to you for listening this evening to this interview of Bill Graham. I'm Jim Ladd.
To your radios, folks, because my guests right.
This is Innerview, an inside look at the people whose music has changed our lives. Innerview is brought to you by Electra Asylum Records and Tapes. We'll be back with host Jim Ladd and Innerview right after this.
How you doing, everybody? This is the second part of our special two-part interview of Bill Graham. Last week, we found out how Bill Graham managed and ran the well-oiled machinery of the Fillmore East and West. And this week, we'll discuss the price exacted from the man while creating his personal monster, and the changes brought about in him by the music, the people, and the Fillmore itself, in part 2 of our interview of Bill Graham.
The key to the Fillmore, for me, was that a person was able to walk in and get the feeling that, look at this thing just runs by itself. There are the apples, and there are the posters, and when you leave, you get a poster for next week, and 8 o'clock, the show starts at 8 o'clock, and everybody does 2 sets, and at the end of the night, if everybody wants to jam, they do the jam, and then Green Sleeves goes on, and those slides go up on the wall, and then you have that rarest of all privileges. You become responsible for the actions of others without them realizing that you're responsible. You get the boy and girl first-timer to the Fillmore in 67, 68. And those were the ones I was keying for. I said, forget about the sandal guy who walks in and says, ah, here I am, boy. Or the ones that painted their face and just danced beautifully, you know. But what about the guy who says to his girl, do you want to go to the Fillmore? Yeah, you know. What's going to happen to that couple when they walk in? As I said, little by little, we experimented with things, and we realized if he walked in there, and he's standing on the floor, and the show has not started yet, and we'd blow up before the show, we'd blow up 100 or 200 balloons and just leave him lying on the floor. And all of a sudden, a balloon hits his girlfriend, let's say, and she just pushes it back, and she's eating the apple or looking at the things on the wall. The one thing that they are not aware of that they're doing is they're forgetting about their inhibitions. And that maybe on that show, or maybe the next show, somewhere along the line, they will start to move, maybe. And maybe the 3rd time they're there, she won't have to wear her Saturday night dress. And maybe the 20th time, they're doing the thing that they mainly came for. That's to have a good time. And that's the business we're in. They go to be entertained. Hopefully sometimes they're affected, but more often than not, it's like going to see a good movie. 1 out of 10 movies stays with you. And like Swept Away has stayed with me. Man and a Woman has stayed with me. I like Schmaltz, and it stayed with me. Stevie Winwood doing Mr. Fantasy stayed with me. I don't know what the reason was, but there was this umbilical cord that went through a place that you never had to tell them then, all right, put your hands together. They just did it. The big difference, Jim, is that they are not coming to their church anymore, which is a whole bag in itself. They're coming to be entertained. In your day when you went, when the Fillmores were open and the Avalon was open, people went there, they were like to a social club, to their church. Well, you see, starting in 70, 71, as the business grew, the guy on the stage realized the business he was in. The guy, and we're generalizing, but the guy in the street realized that all those finger waving and all the up against the walls and we shall overcome-isms ain't gonna change things. You really gotta do it. If you really want to change the world, you gotta get out and do something about it.
What have they done to the earth? What have they done to our fair sister? Ravaged and plundered and ripped her and bit her, stuck her with knives in the side of the dawn and tied her with fences and dragged her down. We want the world and we want it. We want the world and we want it. Now.
Starting in 70, 71, it really got back to what the world always was. We were in a special time zone. We were in a special period, which I don't think will ever be equaled again in our lifetime, where there was that opportunity for that third eye to come up a little bit and say,
We are children of the future. Wonder where this world is going to. Children of the future, wonder what in this world we are going to do.
In those earlier days, when you were charging the exorbitant price of $3.50 to see groups like Cream, all of the other people that would be on one show for $3.50 when I look back at it now.
Cream, Electric Flare, Gary Burton. I remember these shows like they were yesterday.
Yeah, you know, and then there was that period of time where all this guy's just in it for the bucks. And I would say, but then why does he spend so much money on Sunday? You know, I mean, what does that have to do with getting bucks? I think that part of it's over now. You know, people see that. But what did drive you to do that? I mean, now you had this thing and you were scratching to make money and...
Starting with 67, 68, making big bucks, learning the business, making good deals. I said, well, I want to do this. And I want to print up 3,000 cards. I'm going to say, won't you join us for Wine, Women, and Song, for Thanksgiving? Come to my home, which is the Fillmore. Every September, October, I start thinking about New Year's Eve. So who's going to play first New Year's Eve? Because my desire is always the Dead, because they just get you feeling so good. Last year, I called them, and they weren't in the office, and I called them at the studio. And I think Bob Weir or Garcia, one of them answered originally. And they were all there, and I said, would you guys like to play New Year's Eve? And they said, yeah, well, how much? I said, make $75,000. Hold on. So they're talking to each other in the studio, and Jerry gets back on the phone. He said, Bill, we'd rather play at your house New Year's Eve. I said, hey, what I'm trying to tell you is that you can play the Cow Palace and make 75 grand. And that's what I want you to do. I mean, if you play at my house, he said, well, no, this is what the idea is. You know, for years and years, Bill, you've been working New Year's Eve, we're working New Year's Eve, and he says, let's forget about the Cow Palace. Why don't you have your friends, and we'll have our friends, and we'll have a party at your house, and we'll play. That's what we want to do. I said, you mean you'd rather play at my house, or not at all, than to play at the Cow Palace New Year's Eve? Yeah. That was that. Now, the Allman Brothers ended up playing that New Year's Eve. Guess who came to the Cow Palace impromptu to jam with the Allman Brothers?
Grateful Dead.
No, if that's not the Grateful Dead, what is?
Sugar magnolia, blossoms blooming, heads all empty and I don't care. So my baby down by the river, knew she'd have to come up soon for air. Sweet blossom, come on, under the willow, we can have high times if you look back. We can discover the wonders of nature, rolling in the rushes down by the riverside.
Bill Graham has a lot of stories to tell, and we'll be hearing about such legends as Otis Redding and Jimi Hendrix when Innerview returns. No one as yet has ever really equaled Bill Graham as a show producer. He began with a few scattered shows in November of 1965. By March of 1966, Bill Graham was producing shows every weekend. And in the summers of 1967 and 68, the Fillmore Auditorium had shows 6 nights a week. It was something that, well, that you could count on. It was always on time. You could always get a free poster. There was always cold apples. And the show production was always flawless. But what was it that made the Fillmore shows so different?
Would you welcome, please, some good old friends, Hot Tuna.
I've always felt the true sign of a producer and the true sign of someone in my industry who has talent beyond the basics of booking is the guy who has something like this. There's a cross section on in a large city, and on each corner there's a gas station. Four major gas companies. Each one has gas at 62.9. Each one does your window. Each one checks your tires. But one guy does all the business. You know why? Because somehow or other, every time you go there, he remembers you got a 5-year-old kid, your wife wasn't well the last time, and all of a sudden he drives in and he says, how's your wife? You still have the cold? How did he know? Your boy back from summer camp? Oh my God. Personality, sense of humor, warmth, seeming concern. Whether he's concerned or not, whether it's just he wants your business and he does it, it's his art. The best example of what the business is all about is about my favorite performer of all time that I ever saw, that I ever presented on a stage. Even if I didn't present him, it was Otis Redding. I only had the privilege of presenting him 3 dates. And I worked very hard to get him to come to the Fillmore. And one night he played, and he goes up to the dressing room at the old Fillmore. And after the show, he was so good. I wanted to do something for him, and I wanted him to play for me when he came to San Francisco. And I said, can I do it? Can I get you anything, Otis? He said, no, Bill, this is beautiful, the place. I was a little worried I was going to be too white and too psychedelic, but this is really great. I said, wait a minute. He said, yeah, you can get something for me. He said, you know what I want? He says, can you get me a big glass of 7-Up with a lot of ice in it? He says, I just played England, and you can't get ice in England, and I like cold 7-Up. Can you get me some cold 7-Up? I said, sure. So I go down to the concession in the old Fillmore. He said, Denise, give me 2 large 7-Ups with a lot of ice. He said, the ice machine broke, there's no ice. I said, we have no ice? Oh my God. And it was a break time, and everybody was busy by the concession stands. Well, a block and a half away was an all-night Mayfair market where you can get bags of ice. Everybody in my place was busy. It was in the early days. I didn't have that much help. I run down to get the ice. And when I came back from the Mayfair, I started to take them up the steps. And I realized, well, I could just give them to him and say, here it is. And to him, it came from downstairs. There's nothing to it. Now, how do I tell him that I ran to the Mayfair? I can't go up and say, look what I did for you. I got these from the Mayfair market for you, and I did it myself. You're going to play for me. You can't do that. So I'm coming up the steps. When I hit the dressing room door, I pushed the door in, and as I got there, I just... Here's your... Whew. She said, 7-Up. And of course he says, well, what's the matter? I said, no, nothing. Of course I'm waiting for him to ask me, and I said, oh, I'm sorry. It took so long. We didn't have any ice downstairs, Otis, and I just wanted to get you some ice. Okay, I'll see you later. And he just grabbed me and hugged me, and he just looked at me and he said, mocking himself, but being very honest about it, he said, I got to tell you something, boy. When I plays this town, I plays for you. And he was very sincere about it, and I had to fulfill my role, and I said, Otis, that's nothing, man. We'll talk about that some other time, maybe. And I left the room. That's the game. I'll give you an example. Crosby, Stills, Nash Young, wonderful, mad, insane, neurotic, lovely guys. At any time the nicest, at any time insanities. Played a week at Fillmore East during its day, of course. And opening night, Elliot, the manager, comes in, and we're very good friends over the years. We've done a lot of shows together. He said, Bill, now the boys know how you play games backstage. Now we want to tell you, we're going to do a long set, and you know the way the New York kids are, and they love them. No matter how long we play, they're always going to want more. And we're going to play a 3-hour set, or a 2.5, 3-hour set, whatever length it is, no encores. I said, let me tell you something that I've learned over the years about the public. You can play 19 hours with no encore, they go crazy. You can play 2 hours, give them an encore, and they're happy. Because they feel you gave them something extra. Do it with an encore. No. But I want that. I want that extra thing. It's the Fillmore. And they played, and they were brilliant. I mean, brilliant. And I go upstairs, and of course there are 9 guards there. 5 minutes pass, 10 minutes pass. I go into the dressing room, and Neil says, "You see that, Bill? If they really wanted us, I'd hear it." I get an idea. I go downstairs, and Michael Ahern, who was the stage manager at that time, says, "Michael, I want you to take an easy 10 count like this. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. When you get to 15, I want you to lower the house. Lights." He said, "Just do it. Go." I go running up the steps, go to the dressing room, I close the door, I said, "Neil, come on." He says, "No, they don't really want us." 11, 12, "Neil, they're going crazy." Like, "They're not going crazy. If they want us, they'd hear it. Here, listen to this, 15, whoop!" I open the door, the house lights go down, the kids go crazy. Neil looks at the others and says, "Fellas, do you hear that? They want us." They played a half hour. Woo!
Bill Graham has more than his share of rock and roll memories. And in this part of Interview, he was kind enough to share with me a very special story about Jimi Hendrix.
Jimmy and I had a number of experiences, and somebody says Hendrix, a particular situation comes to mind that is one of the most astounding experiences I ever had. I think it was New Year's of '69. He's playing Fillmore East, and I watched the first show, and I was in the office, and we were turning the house over, so it was quiet in the office, and he came in and said hello, and he was very quiet and reserved, but he and I got along quite nicely. He said, "What do you think of the show, Bill?" "Hey, come on." And I realized that he saw that I was fluffing it off. And I looked at Jim, and I said, "Well, you're asking me, and I'm going to have to tell you." He said, "Yeah, you know, I want to know what you thought of it." And in so many words, I tried to tell him that, "Jimmy, I don't throw these things around loosely. There is no one like you. I mean, you play the guitar like no one ever has, and probably nobody ever will. You're an orchestra, and you're a great musician. That whole first set, you're a shuck, man." And I mean, "What did you say?" I said, "You know what you did?" I said, "You gave them exactly what you knew you could get away with, and you sucked on the keys, and you humped the guitar, and you set it on fire, and you played it above your head, and you picked it with your teeth, and you picked it with your toes, whatever you do with the guitar. You showed them every trick in the trade, and you forgot to do one thing. You forgot to play." Well, I almost lost him right there. But what came over him, all of a sudden, I mean, in big glaring letters, was truth. "How can you do that?" He said, "Well, sometimes I get into it." I said, "Well, then that's the price you pay. And you know that you can walk out there and pick your nose because it's Jimi Hendrix. And you can do it. Knowing that, do you know how powerful you are? That you're so powerful, you can get out there and do what you did. And they'll go home and rave about you because that's who you are." I'm not sitting here telling you this because I want you to prove you that I'm right. But he said, "Oh my God, you're right." He said, "Would you do me a favor? You going to hang around for the midnight?" I said, "Of course, man. What did I fly here? To go to the deli? I came here to watch you play." He says, "Good. Check the next set out." Well, he walked on the stage and proceeded to play the most brilliant set to this day I've seen any guitarist. And I managed Carlos Santana, and I think Carlos was great. And I think Neil Young is great, and I think Eric Clapton is great, and Jimmy. What I saw that night, I've never seen since. The virtuosity of a rock and roll electric guitar player. He did nothing but play and sing, and he was brilliant. I mean, brilliant. Played about an hour and a half, wringing wet, and comes into the wings, and I just nodded my head and put my thumb up. He said, "Will you let me go now?" And I knew what he was talking about, and I said, "Yeah." And here's the beauty. He walks back on the stage for his encore and does 10 minutes of all the shtick that he had put away for the entire set. He humped his guitar, and he put it to flame, and he kicked it, and he kneed it, and he picked it with his teeth, and picked it with his toes, and he came off stage grinning like a bear, and we hugged each other, and that was it.
There must must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief. Businessman there to drink my wine. Plowman dig my earth. None will level on the mine. Nobody of it is worth. Hey, hey.
You know, you could say that the Fillmore Auditorium was really born out of Bill Graham's desire to keep alive a relatively obscure art form. You see, his first show at the Fillmore was a benefit for the San Francisco Mime Troupe in November of 1965. And the loss of the theater was the gain of the music world. For in February of 1966, Bill Graham started into full swing with the Jefferson Airplane and a few other local bands. The first of what would be a 5-year kaleidoscope of musical presentations. We'll hear about some of the beginnings of the San Francisco ballroom scene when we return with the second half of our special 2-part interview of Bill Graham. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jim Ladd. You know, in all the interviews that I've ever done, and as many times as Bill Graham's name has come up, even with all the raps about what a hard guy he can be, no one, and I emphasize no one, has ever even suggested to me that Bill Graham cheated him out of money or treated him in a way that made them feel that they were, well, a lower form of life. Now, sometimes he yelled at the groups, and he told them that they were inconsiderate, not only to him, but also to those people who paid hard to come by money to see the band. But he meant it to drive them to a better performance, or maybe even to get them to do an encore, to get you to be a Nureyev instead of some schlep just leaping around the stage. And after the show, after you had come up with what Bill Graham had demanded, a stellar performance, you not only got your money, but you also got appreciation and respect, commodities highly valued by Bill Graham.
I don't want to come off like a Puritan boy, angelic.
That would be hard to do anyway, Bill.
Yeah, I make mistakes, and I get to be rough sometimes and ruthless sometimes, and seemingly that way. I don't work at being honest so that I can live with myself. Does it mean that I'm not a con man? I'm as much a con man as anybody I've ever known. But I think I'm an honest con man. I'll do anything I can to get you to do what I think is good for both of us. Not to hurt you, not to hurt me, not to hurt the public. To hurt a competitor, not to hurt him. To compete, I'd probably find a way of walking on water if that's what I had to do to compete.
Give me an example, let's say of the early days when you were in direct competition, let's say with the Family Dog.
Okay, well, the very first, I did shows we did the benefits for the meme troupe, and then they started going well, and I started doing shows in early '66. And one day, I think John Carpenter and Chet Helms came to see me. I didn't know who they were. And they said, look, we want to get into this business too, and we're looking for a place. We don't have a place, but we heard of a band. We heard a tape of them, and we really think they're great. They're out of Chicago, and they're blowing everybody's mind back east. And don't forget, this is '66, and
sure,
everything was new. And he said, it's the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. They said, why don't we go in with you? It'll be Bill Graham and the Family Dog at Fillmore present. I said, fine, let's do a 3-night thing. We'll split the expenses, and we'll split the profits. I said, fine. Well, the first night, we're all sitting around the room, and the conversation is something like, you know, when we get our place, we're going to, because the place was full.
Yeah.
But we're going to want to play Butterfield. I said, me too. And I felt great. I mean, 3 nights of, you know, born in Chicago, East, West. I mean,
Sure.
East West is my favorite cut of all times. That's why it's a very special band for me. I mean, all that time I kept on thinking, they're going to go after the band, and I want the band. And I knew that the manager was Albert Grossman of this band. I go home, and I set my alarm for 6 a.m., which is 9 o'clock in New York. I get up, call his office, And he wasn't there, and I left word. Maybe half hour, 45 minutes later, about 7 o'clock my time, my phone rings. It's his office calling back. Make a long story short, this is who I am. The band just played my place in partnership with so-and-so. We did very well. I'd like to give you a raise and a percentage the next time. Boom, boom, boom. Talk back, forth, and arguing. An hour later, finished. I get up, feel good, and go to the Fillmore. Go to work. About 3 o'clock that afternoon, I'm in the office, and Chet comes to the office. And obviously, he had just gotten up. And he said, hey, what'd you do, man? I said, what are you talking about? I just called the office back there, man, and to book Butterfield because we're going to find a place. I said, do you have a place yet? He says, no, but we want to do it again. And they told me that you got them booked for 2 or 3 weeks from now at the Fillmore. I said, yeah. Hey, man, where's that at? And as true as I'm sitting here, I looked straight at him. I said, Chet, I got to give you one piece of advice because what I'm going to tell you to do, that's what I do. He said, what's that, man? And I just looked straight at him. I said, get up early.
Woke up this morning, I looked round for my shoes. You know I had those mean old walking blues, yeah. Woke up this morning, I looked round for my shoes. Well, I had those mean old walking blues.
What do you think has been the biggest change in your concept of promoting now as opposed to then?
That's very simple. Lack of control of the show.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's very apparent to me, and it might not be apparent to the people who go to shows now, that it's really stopped around 70. But the first 5 years, the primary pleasure of the business end was the opportunity to create shows that were my own imagination, that came through my own imagination. Now, today, I mean, let's put the cards where they lay. Most of the creativity as to who is on the show is taken away from the promoter. A major group will come into your facility, your community, and say, we're coming in, this is the opening act, they will play 30 minutes. We have a lot of specials in the production. They can only use 2 Super Troopers. We are coming in with 6, so that when we come on, we will look like giants, and they will look like pygmies. Now, you don't want that? All right, Joe Blow will present us. For every Bill Graham that may say no, there are 10 guys that'll say yes.
The lights turned on and the curtain fell down. And when it was over, it felt like a dream. They stood at the stage door and begged for a scream. The agents had paid for the black limousine that waited outside in the rain. Did you see them? Did you see them?
Tell that the empty quiver, brown skin, Indian on the banks that were crowded and narrow, held a broken arrow.
But in those days, the headliners were Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, Arthur Lee's Love, The Byrds, Traffic, Buffalo Springfield, Moby Grape, I mean, the great ones. To be able to put on a show with, let's say, Buffalo Springfield, and just before they went on, to be able to walk on a stage and say, you're here for a rare treat, and I hope you'll give him that space. Would you welcome, please, Bola Sete? It doesn't take a genius to put Lily Tomlin in an ad in, or Phoebe Snow's ad in. I put the Byrds on, and in the middle, before they went on, the act before the Byrds, I asked the people to clear the middle of the floor, and I put up some sets. And I did a one-act Leroy Jones play. And the kids were they couldn't believe what was going on. Then it was over, and then we got into the Byrds. 8 Miles High, blah, 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 fine. There's no way you're going to do that today.
8 miles high, and when you touch down, you'll find that it's stranger than known. Signs in the street
see, I'm also not getting out of it what I got out of it until 71. In 71, I wasn't getting what I needed anymore, combined with I wanted to try something new, and I went out. Then I went back in, and I'm not saying we haven't felt good with some things in the last 5 years, and I'm not saying that I'm not proud of the business I'm in, and that I respect most of the artists that I deal with and the people that I deal with, but the get-off, the orgasm, isn't nearly what it used to be.
Things have indeed changed for Bill Graham, as they have for all of us. But Bill has left his mark on our culture, and when we return with the last portion of this two-part interview, we'll find out how Bill Graham feels about the loss of that particular art form that was the Fillmore. Perhaps it is true that we only really appreciate something when it's gone. You know, the proverbial water in the dry well. We, who made up the audience for the Fillmore, because even if we weren't there, we were connected to what Bill Graham likes to call the umbilical cord that connected everyone in those strange, magical years. We couldn't help but feel an incredible void when the Fillmore finally closed in 1971. The pain was eased, just a bit, by the incredible shows that made up those closing days of the Fillmore.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much. For once, after all these years, we usually start with the place so dark. We're going to lower the lights, but I just wanted to see you once for the last time. We're going to do it now. I can guarantee you it's not a nice thing to say on the air, but this is going to be the greatest evening of our lives.
From June 29th of 1971 through July 4th, it was like a musical history book flashing before our eyes. Starting with Marlowe, Cold Blood, the Flamin' Groovies, Stone Ground, and a then relatively unknown man named Boss Skaggs, it was a week-long celebration. It's a Beautiful Day, Elvin Bishop, the Grateful Dead, and the New Riders held down the middle of the week. And then, just when you thought you'd reached the point of sensory overload, Quicksilver, Hot Tuna, the Rowan Brothers. And then on the last night, with enough people outside the Fillmore to fill another hall, it was Santana, Creedence, and Tower of Power. And then it was gone.
As it is with anything new, you can't put in 8 hours a day. You got to put in whatever it takes. It's 20 hours one day and 2 the next. Whatever it takes, you do it. Except for that one thing of how much it cost, not in money, but in time away from family and so forth. How do you deal with that?
Certainly differently now than I did in the formative stages when the Fillmore was being born and the baby had to be cared for and breastfed, you know. And it got all of me. And I can say too much of me, but I honestly feel like if I didn't put in all that I did, it wouldn't have happened. So the judgment has to be made, was it worth it? Does the end justify the means? I'm a man, and I went through a number of failures, a number of things, of successes which I thought I'd be happy with. You know, I think I'll be a statistician, I don't like it. I think I'll be a head waiter, I don't like it. I think I'll be a cab driver, I don't like it. I think I'll be an actor, I failed. And then something comes along, you're literally saying to your woman and to your friends and to society, this is my shot. Now, having had the sweet smell of success, the most important thing is my home and what is close to me. And sometimes I'll say, I'm going home, and call me when the second act is over. I'll get to town, introduce the headliner because they'd like me to, and I'll come home. And I won't hang out as much. And if it means they might get mad at me for not hanging out afterwards, and they won't play for me the next time, then I'll go home.
Well, my pad is very messy, and there's whiskers on my chin, and I'm more hung up with music, and I always fade away. I ain't got no time for loving, because my time is all used up. Just for sitting around creating all that groovy kind of stuff. But I'm a man, yes I am, and I can't help but love you so. No, no, no. But I'm a man, yes I am, and I can't help but love you so. No, no, no. No, no, no. Yes I am, and I can't help but love you so. No, yes I am. No, no, no. It's so bad.
But your values have changed.
Yes, but they've changed because I've climbed a particular mountain, and I'm not saying I've said everything there is to say. I mean, this opens up a whole new big, again, without answering your questions as to what do you want to do now and what has success done to you. The one thing that I know is that what I'm doing now is not pleasing to me, but in time, I will make my move. The difficult thing to do, which to me is more important than any questions you may have, is that success is like a drug, and it's like a disease, and it's very beautiful, and it's very maddening, because it hooks you, it catches you, and it challenges you to leave it. What success means: power, money, fame, security. What's the price you'll pay? I think a small percentage of our working society is fortunate to love both the job and the other life. You might have a guy who drives a bus who doesn't like it, but when he gets home, Goomba's got 3 kids, and he'll tolerate that job. Well, voluntarily, I paid a big price the last 10 years. Very little private life. Nobody to blame, no arguing. Having had the particular kind of success that I've had for a long time, I want that other thing. And for years I said, well, that's not important now, this is important now. And I lost appreciation for the ocean, or for sailing, or for swimming, or for just sitting here, just hanging out in my own home. It was work, phones, go, action. Had to climb that particular mountain. Well, I climbed it, and there may be bigger ones. But right now, the challenge of another mountain isn't important.
I had to compete in the country jungle. In the jungle. Had to get scratched, stab some back in the jungle. In the jungle. At first I had a honest dream in the dice road too.
What is, to you, the most positive change that has happened because of this whole trip?
I think the most positive thing that came out of it is that third world movement has made it possible for many more people to be down and much gentler and much more honest with their fellow man. I meet more people who don't hide who they are. What is really the purest relationship I can have? I guess it's when I say, listen, I got some problems, Jim, but here it is, man. I mean, you want to take a lick? And when somebody can do that, and obviously some have been able to do that, and at the still time work on their own little things that they got to get done, that's power.
I ain't looking to compete with you, beat or cheat or mistreat you, simplify you, pacify you, deny, defy or crucify you. All I really wanna do is baby be friends with you. No, I ain't looking to fight with you, frighten you or frighten you, drag you down or bring you down, shame you down or bring you down. All I really wanna do is baby be friends with you, baby be friends with you.
How much credit do you give yourself for making that change in America?
Oh.
Because Bill Graham, whether you want to say it or not, I mean, you sitting in that chair have a lot to do, and I've never really met you before today, but you've had a huge influence on the way I think and approach life, because I was moved by your way of dealing.
You see, I feel good about subliminally affecting people. I mean, when you say to me, Bill, you and your what you guys did affected my way of life. I mean, over the years, when we've traveled somewhere, people come up and say, hey man, you really did some great things for my head. If this has happened once, it's happened 1,000 times. I'll be in New York, Lower East Side, walking along, 2 or 3 guys will sort of mosey over and say, excuse me, you're Bill Graham, ain't you? And all of a sudden they're back to those old days, and they said, well, you see, Mr. Bill, You know, years ago, you know, we used to go to Fillmore all the time, the late Saturday night shows. You know, we used to go loaded up in the balcony. And sometimes guys would, you know, yell out and pig and rip off and capitalist. And we was like those guys, you know. And like, we're sorry, we want to apologize. I'll see you. Well, I say to myself, it took it closing for them to realize what they didn't have. And if in that indirect way, some cat is someday going to come up to me and say, you know, I really had a thing in for you, boy, because you used to charge me $5 to see Janis Joplin, the Staple Singers, and Yusef Lateef, and I hated you. But then you closed that place, and it cost me $7 to see Nina Simone somewhere, and the sound sucked. And now I think twice before I make up my mind about somebody. Now, if in that way you're saying, Bill, do you think you've helped in any way? Yeah. That I feel good about.
I think it's only fitting that we leave you this way and we say goodbye to you with the music in the background by the musicians that made San Francisco what it is. So we'd like to say goodnight to you this way, close out, and say goodbye to you with the music, letting you leave. Bless you. Good night.
The Fillmore East and the Fillmore West ceased operation in 1971. But Bill Graham kept his hand in as an entrepreneur. In '76, he proved he didn't even need a rock group to draw 100,000 people. He did it with vegetation in the 1976 World of Plants in San Francisco. Any star who wants a great show will still come to Bill Graham, and with his upcoming role in Apocalypse in Hell, perhaps he will come closer to achieving all of his goals. Now, I want to thank Bill Graham, not only for being with us for this two-part interview, but for being there from the beginning. Before saying goodnight, I'd like to say thanks to Queenie Taylor and Gail Barrett, both of Bill Graham Presents, and a heartfelt, if not frustrated, thank you and a hug to the one and only Ms. Ray, who's responsible for writing both Part 1 and Part 2 of this very special interview of Bill Graham. I'm Jim Ladd.